Welcome back to the Build a Workshop series. Whenever I started building my workshop, I did not even consider dust collection. And I didn't even think about wearing a mask whenever I started cutting boards. But I soon realized just how important it is to prevent those fine particles of dust from floating around the shop and cluttering up the floor. So my brother-in-law's parents gave me a central vacuum. It's a Kenmore. It's pretty old. I'm not sure of any real details on it, but 11 amps I know is how much it draws, so it's pretty powerful. But I have rigged up a dust collection system here, and in my typical land-to-house fashion, I started filming a step-by-step process of just what I was doing, but I soon realized that I was running into lots of mistakes. So here are a few clips of the build, and then I'll get to the testing stage. I'm going to be using this wall right here to store both my vacuum and bucket. And I've marked out the locations that I want this vacuum to be. And so the suction part is going to be right here. And this gives me a height of where I need this. Now I only have a stud here and here, so I'm going to make a little cross section for the mounting bracket on this. So let's do that now. I'm going to use this 2x4 scrap here, and I want to make marks at 2-inch, 4, 6, and 8, and then cut those blocks out. I'm going to be using 3-inch screws to keep this bracket on the wall, and to prevent these blocks from cracking, I'm just going to pre-drill a couple of holes in here. I've marked right here where I want the top bracket to be placed, and so what I'm going to do is match up along next to that here on this stud, and I'm going to just put this into place. Still good. I've cut down 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood to 17 inches by 3.5 to finish up the brackets here, and I'm going to mark at 9-inch on both of these towards the center. And the only hardware that I could find that would work was this 1-inch bolt here, and it's just slightly too short. So I'm going to recess just a little bit here with the wood bit. Alright, just recessing in a little bit. It's not even halfway through. I'm going to go ahead and get this support piece on here so that I know exactly where it needs to go. Alright, cool. I think that'll do just well enough. So I should be able to get this on here and get it installed up here on the wall. Okay, just going to line this up here, right in the middle of my blocks. I can come back and add another screw if I have to later, but hopefully these will be enough with the 4 screws. Alright, let's see if this thing fits up here. Okay. Very cool. I like it. Nice. Okay. Now I need to finish the brackets on the bottom and get those installed as well. I installed the second bracket just like the top one, and let's see how well this thing fits. Oh, hopefully I was able to match up those appropriately. It's also a good thing this thing isn't too heavy. Aha, there we go. I think it looks pretty good up here. I also want to see how the door does when it opens up here. So it is going to cover up that hole there, so I'll have to make sure that whenever I'm using this, I don't have this door open. Now let's plug it up and see how well it works. So I noticed it has a little bit of wobble here, and I'm hoping that whenever it's attached up here, it'll stop any kind of wobble. If not, I may have to just kind of put some kind of support bracket in here, but switch is off. I'm going to plug this up. I also want to see if the lights dim whenever I turn this on. Let's see here. Okay, now let's try it. Yes, the lights did flicker real quick, but it wasn't really that bad. So, seems to have lots of suction. I'm hoping it's going to work out well. So, next I'm going to be using the bucket and that cyclone for the rest of the system. So I have a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and I've traced around the cyclone base, and then I've marked the center of that, and I'm going to use a very dull hole saw just to mark that circle. As you can see, that's not doing a very good job, but I'm just using it to score the edge here so that I can come back with my saw and cut that out. So now I can come back with my skill saw and my jigsaw and cut that out. Now that I have this plywood base finished with the hole in the middle here, I'm going to take the cyclone and place it back in the circle here. And I just want to mark the place that I want to drill these holes for here. I think I'm just going to use this sharp screw to make an indentation here. Now I have the bucket lid underneath this piece of wood, and I have it centered off. I'm going to just drill holes into the bucket lid as well, following the pattern of my wood here. Now I'm taking a little caulking, and I'm going to put it here on the bottom side of the cyclone, and this should make a really nice seal between the bucket and the cyclone itself. I'm almost forgetting to put a hole in the lid of the bucket here. That would not have been good. I think I'm going to use this board underneath to make sure I don't split through the bucket and rip the top. There we go. That was nice and clean. Okay, let me get my bolts started in here. This has been one of those projects that's just kind of hard for me to wrap my head around, but it is starting to get somewhere, finally. Hopefully all of my bolts will line up here, and this will be a good, easy fit. So now it's just a matter of putting some nuts on there to keep this thing in place. So the wood is basically just something to give a little extra structure to this. I imagine it's not required, but I think it's going to be very helpful. Now that I finally have the cyclone on the bucket lid, it's time to work on all the connections. So I have a few pieces of this short pipe. It's 1.5 inch, and I'm just going to glue this short piece into a 90-degree elbow here. There we go. That should do it. And now, to go from the top of the cyclone to the vacuum itself, I'm going to be using this 90 here in this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. I have a 1.5 to 1.5 connector here, and I'm going to use this to go from this pipe to the vacuum itself. The vacuum has a strange size on it. It's like 1 5/8 inch or something. So it's an off standard pipe size, and that's why I can't just use all fittings on here, like all PVC fittings. But this should work just fine. Just using these This is really cramped back here, but I'm just gonna get this pipe attached here. And let's see. Sorry if my arm's in the way. There's not a whole lot I can do with this bad angle back here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now let's get the cyclone attached to this piece here. I found a socket set to hopefully make this go a little bit smoother. Well, I've made a few steps without you. I'm not exactly sure where this project was going when I started it, and it's been a bit difficult. So anyway, I'm just making some temporary brackets to hold up this pipe here. I'm going to come back later and make some really nice brackets hopefully, but for now this should at least just keep it into place. Let me get this pipe put together and I'll show you kind of what I've rigged up here. Definitely awkward in here. Okay, here's what I have so far. I've got the vacuum, which has connector there, comes out, goes down into the cyclone. And this is going to come up to about 90 inches up here, which then has two 45s to sweep around the corner. And then it's going to shoot across here, and hopefully it will go up in between here to come down. But so that's what I have so far. And this piece is going to come over here and have two downspouts for dust collecting. So the bucket is going to get fairly heavy, I imagine, which is here. So this is going to be hanging down here. And my thoughts are, what if I make a collapsible door or drawer, or a shelf, I guess, that'll be down here. So it'll collapse when I want to empty this thing and have a piece to hold it up when it's not being emptied. So that's my goal for that, because I'm going to want to lock down, like this piece will be locked to the wall, and I may even put some plumber's tape or something around this to keep it on the wall from pulling out. And that will allow me to use one of those bucket lid remover tools to get the bucket off of there without too much hassle. That's the hope, at least. We'll see if it works. Now it's time to start adding components. I have the piece that's going above the door here. I need to make the sweeping 90 for that corner, and so I've just marked a piece of pipe to go between these two 45s here to finish up that quarter. So let's go ahead and get this piece cut. So as you can see, I started off strong and just kind of fell to the wayside. But let's go ahead and test this thing out. Let's start from the beginning. Here's the power source. I'm going to run an extension cord to the wall and around so that this cord doesn't have to reach in front of my bucket. But this outlet controls this receptacle. So that's going to be my main shutoff switch there. So the unit has an output, which is here, and it just blows air. And then it has an input, the suction side over here. And so I've used this rubber gasket to go into the unit. And so we're kind of running backwards here, but suction's going that way. Comes down into the cyclone, which it'll pull dust in from here, hit this, cycle down, and the big stuff should hopefully go into this bucket, which will have a shelf here soon to support this on. And it's going to be a breakaway shelf, so I can just remove that and then empty out the bucket. So anyway, hopefully most of the big stuff will go into the bucket, and little tiny particles and just air goes into here, which then collects down here in the tub. So as far as my connections for tools, it runs up here and has a sweeping 90 that goes up and above the door to the other side of the shop. We come over here. Yeah. So it has a T here with, I believe this was an 18-inch pipe, and this cap can be removed for a tool attachment. It goes down here, and there's another one down there. And the same thing happens over here on this side. I've got a T with an 18-inch pipe, and I forgot to buy one more T, but it's going to have one over there as well. And I'm also doing a cap on the end of the T in case I want to extend this later on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and plug this up into the wall here. Okay, and I've got a dustpan with some sawdust and PVC shavings, but I thought I would give this a test. So I have everything else capped off except for this pipe here. And so I'm just going to hold this up because I don't have any of my hoses yet to attach to these. So this thing is just loud enough that I'm going to put some earmuffs on. There we go. All right, let's see how this works. I've never turned this on before, so I don't know how it's going to do. All right, let's check out results here. One thing I noticed was a bunch of debris was rolling around up here at the very top. So most of that, I have a feeling, was PVC shavings, so they're super light. But let me open up this first and see what we have in here. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, very little. And most of that was probably there already, because I think that looks like some shavings from gravel road, or some gravel dust. So let me see if I can get this bucket off of here. There is a tool that removes bucket lids easily, and I may end up buying one of those. There we go. So looks like everything that I put in there in that dustpan has gone up in here, which is really great to see. Well, so far I'm very pleased with this build. This vacuum has a lot of power. It was able to suck up that entire dustpan just no problem at all. I am noticing that when I turn this thing on, the lid kind of crumples up a little bit, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. If it does end up wrinkling, then there's no big deal. I just buy a new lid, and I'll put a piece of wood on both the top and bottom to sandwich that lid in there and keep it from doing that. But it just definitely means there's a lot of power. Now, I've seen videos where the suction is strong enough to crinkle up the bucket, and I noticed that, you know, it kind of shrunk up even with this outlet open. So if I were to stop that up or put a hand over it or something, it may be strong enough to crush that bucket. Now, I definitely don't want to do that to my vacuum cleaner motor here, but I just have to keep an eye on that. So this video is kind of a partial complete video. I want to continue to run this power cord around the bucket. I've got to make a shelf for the bucket to sit on in case it gets really heavy. I've got to finish out the end of the run, and then I have to find a shop vac hose or some kind of hose attachment that can be removed from each of these places that I have. So whether that's with just a fitting that fits on that pipe or a union, I don't know, but definitely have to have something. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've got some really great tips on central vacuum cleaners in a workshop, I would love to hear it. And do keep watching for future updates. I'm Seth Johnson with Land House, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.